Hello and welcome to the Morrison Run, the comic book podcast where we read and review everything by Grant Morrison. My name is Bertie.
And I'm Angwin.
I'm Leon.
Today we're reviewing the third book in the Wonder Woman Earth 1 trilogy.
So this comic introduces a sort of future side to it, like a possible future, which is a thing in a lot of Grant Morrison comics. But it sort of shows a utopian future where the Amazons have clearly won, and it's a sort of Amazon paradise world. But at the same time, there's a present-day story where the US military and Maxwell Lord have made Ares, which is like these big robots. They're sort of like the Sentinels from X-Men, and they're creating war and terrorizing women and going to attack Amazon Island. And so the Amazons sort of have to band together to fight Ares and Man's World. I say fight, but there's a big theme of sort of not using the ways of Man's World and going against that kind of violence and those kind of ideals. Diana is sort of looking. She seeks her mother's wisdom because obviously Hippolyta died in the last story. So she travels to the underworld, and that might be my favorite sequence of this book. It's sort of quite surreal. She encounters a lot of like interesting things there, like the souls of the dead, but they're sort of I quite like this interpretation of the afterlife where all the people that are died and in the underworld, they're stuck in like doing actions that are sort of echoes of themselves, where they keep redoing the same actions. I thought that was a really interesting interpretation of that.
Yeah, I agree. At the end of this, I actually have a question for everyone. There's this girl. So is she meant to be Diana's daughter or like her mum?
So what you're talking about is, at the end, Diana, who, by the way, I should have already said, she's the queen of the Amazons now, is holding a young child, and who is dressed like Hippolyta was, kind of, in blue. But I think that is her child, but as a reflection of her mum. And I think she probably made this child like from clay.
Fair.
And stuff. Like I would think.
Well, yeah. So Diana like puts her mum's heart inside the clay, and then it makes this girl.
Probably, yeah. Because there's a plot device of Hippolyta's heart still burning after Hippolyta's died. I mean, Wonder Woman says right at the end, and so the world renews itself, the mother from the daughter born. So
Yeah.
Do you think though,
so
like, Diana, it was revealed later on that she was kind of the daughter of Hercules, or was it Hercules somehow?
Yeah, Hercules, yeah.
And I think this is maybe supposed to be a bit like, I don't know, now they've taken control of man's worlds and things are more to their liking with this new child and stuff.
That's true. However, it's like it's not a gripe, but I guess my thought is, I guess I'll ask you guys, how do you feel that, because this is like the last panel basically, having Diana holding this girl, I think like one of the last panels, right? How do you feel that like the climax or the grand ending to this feminist story is like motherhood? I don't know. I think that it's cool in the sense that it's definitely an interpretation, and I'm sure that many women will view that as a point of great pride. But I don't know if it's universal, if you know what I'm saying.
I understand. I did consider that because, tying a story about women to motherhood is almost stereotypical or reinforces the idea that all women should be mothers or something like that. But I don't know, reading this panel, I didn't get that. Diana doesn't quite feel... When we see Diana in the future and when we see Diana in this panel, I don't get the vibes that this is a story about a motherhood or a mother. I feel like the child
that's true.
in that sort of more just represents like the future and the past of the Amazon way, and that kind of legacy and history being carried on. But at the same time, I fully do understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's fair. No, yeah, I think that's fair. I wouldn't say that it's like Diana becomes a maternal figure and then she just like stops doing Wonder Woman things. Like we see her in the future and she's very much doing Wonder Woman things. Still like wearing disguises and stuff like she was in the last volume. So yeah, I think that's fair assessment. Yeah. There's Donald Trump in this comic, which I was like, that's kind of crazy. Like he just got like called out, like fully called out, and like it's common for media to like, because I feel like in a lot of media, even media that's totally sci-fi, most of the characters, even if they like directly reflect modern people, like Maxwell Lord, him being this like tech guy that's best friends with the president. It's like who could that be? But I do think it's quite common for media to just like this is the president, like in Rick and Morty or whatever. It's meant to be kind of Obama, right? Etc. etc. Yeah. But I was like, that's kind of crazy, just having him there because, yeah.
I think in a lot of, I think in comic books you don't see the president often or figures like that, because in DC Comics usually it's a world that is very fictional, like all the cities are fictional. It doesn't make sense if you just put the real president in there. And then in like Marvel Comics, there's a whole problem where the Marvel is meant to be more so a reflection of the real world, but they have sometimes reference real presidents, but I think they've learned that with the way that the Marvel timeline works, where it's never been rebooted, it's like it doesn't make sense if they have every real president. And also, when you do have a real president, it highlights all the other crazy things about the Marvel universe that makes it feel less real. So it's just uncommon to see in comic books. But Earth 1, which is meant to be, like Bertie said 2 episodes ago, a version of what if these characters sort of existed in the real world, it makes sense, especially because these are limited stories.
Yeah, that's true.
That have an ending.
And I would say though that this especially this volume is definitely the least realistic. I think like Jump the Shark is a bit harsh, but like they definitely stop holding back a lot of the sci-fi elements of Wonder Woman in this one. They have like her going to different planets and different universes. Is it different universes or different planets? Like it could be both.
I think it was sort of like a parallel. I think it was meant to be a parallel universe because they talk about this. The alternate future we see in this comic is sort of one that becomes logical with the ending of this comic, with the Amazon sort of winning against man's world. But they still kind of talk about fate, and they sort of overcome fate by talking about the future being branching parallel timelines and stuff. So I think when she goes to there's a bit where basically she goes to like another Amazonia and learns things from what they've done, and I think that would be another parallel branch.
Yeah, well, my question is even though they all have the same name, like Wonder Woman Earth 1, Superman Earth 1, the impression I'm getting is that these aren't the same universe. Like do these stories take place in the same sort of the same universe.
I think would have been meant to take place in the same universe. I think had Earth One been a bigger success, I definitely think they left it open so that these comics could have ended up overlapping. They could have had, Justice League Earth One eventually. Obviously, that didn't happen, but
Yeah.
I think retroactively they are disconnected, but that was never the intention. I think there was also, I did look into this, supposed to be a Flash and Aquaman Earth One, and they just never came out, I think, due to the popularity of these ones.
But I think a lot of the big universe shifting stuff that happens in this book, first of all, it leaves it a little bit open by talking about the sort of parallel timeline thing. Like, the future it depicts isn't set in stone as Earth One's future necessarily. And I also think that the Amazons overcoming man's world, this is one of the last Earth One comics that comes out. So this big war and this win for the Amazons sort of can come last in the timeline of Earth One and doesn't have to affect anything else.
Yeah, I've just looked this up, and it was the last one to come out, and it wasn't necessarily planned as the last one, but I think they maybe weren't too careful in that the ending is kind of crazy and could just be the end of that universe, but also, I guess it's a possible future, so Aquaman could have come out after. Or
do we know why Earth One didn't do that well?
Well, it was just the it was the nature of them, like being standalone graphic novels and not. And originally, when they originally coming out, it was the same time as the New 52, which was doing a similar thing. We kind of touched on this in the first episode. I don't think they necessarily did like badly, but it wasn't something people were that excited for at the same time.
I get what you're saying. But these started coming out around like the mid 2010s.
They started coming out in 2010.
Oh, fair. Oh wow. So no, not mid. Like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
But this.
I'm okay. I'm getting a picture now.
So.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was gonna say, like, obviously, like Absolute Batman right now is an example where like they're still doing the classic like issue every month type thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hype around it, but would you say that the issue every month format is like as popular as it used to be?
That's a complicated question, because I mean, people still buy issues every month and get hyped about it. I think it's a way that it's like the way they make money really is just by like kind of farming hype on like stupid little reveals that are coming out next month and getting people to buy issues every month. But I'd say, and there's still a big community around that, but I think ultimately most comic readers these days are just mostly read in trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's a niche market, but in the case of the Absolute Universe, they really seem to figure out how to market it to people who weren't actually buying the issues. So I think there are a lot of people who knew of Absolute Batman and knew of Wonder Woman, Superman through the designs that they were sharing online, and they'd kind of created a bit of hype around these alternate versions of the characters and social media posts that triggered fan art and stuff. So I think the Absolute Universe has something over Earth One in terms of the way it was marketed.
Okay, and that's, I mean, this is going to be our only, not our maybe our only, but this is a chance on the podcast to talk about Wonder Woman Earth One, which, as a alternate version of Wonder Woman, I think I'm preferring Absolute Wonder Woman. I mean, Absolute Wonder Woman. It's a where Wonder Woman Earth One attempts to sort of do a slightly different version of Wonder Woman's classic origin. Absolute Wonder Woman is like flipping Wonder Woman on its head, whilst it still feels like the same character, and it makes a lot of big changes, like Wonder Woman being raised in the underworld and stuff like that.
Cast spells, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's like a witch. But I love that. I love everything in Absolute Wonder Woman so far. I mean, the art by Hayden Sherman is incredible. That actually, interestingly, compared to Earth 1, Absolute Wonder Woman does some incredible paneling as well. I would say on par with Wonder Woman Earth 1, where every page is just beautifully designed. And Kelly Thompson is just writing an incredible Wonder Woman story as well. So, go check that out.
Yeah, defo. But yeah, no, I was only asking just because it seems like two very different strategies. Having one be entirely in like trade and the other one be issued by like kind of like month by month issues. But it just seems like they found a lot more success with Absolute. But I guess, like we said, it's more to do with marketing than anything.
Yeah, I think.
I guess
had about like 12 or something of these graphic novels over 11 years, which is a kind of crazy way of releasing these comics. But
I do really, even if it didn't quite work, I do really appreciate that they did it, because first of all, it gave the artists time to just like do a full 100 pages to the best of their ability, and they're given years between each volume to do that. It's sort of like when a musician goes away and takes a break for a year to do their next album, like it's going to be better and more refined. And also, I just appreciate that it respects where the market is at. Like I'm not someone who can pay for single issues every month, but I can afford to get a trade paperback. So I appreciate the respects that market as well. So I really like that they did it. It just maybe didn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot more hype around the Absolute Universe. But I mean, I think that they're doing arguably very similar. Like they're kind of meant to be doing very similar things, but I don't know. It's just like the general marketing around the new ones, I guess, is what led to the more hype.
Well,
but I think perhaps. There you go.
I just think the premise of Earth 1, no matter how good any of the stories ended up being, the premise of all the Earth 1 stories is simply not that exciting.
Yeah.
Batman, but he's more real, but like not that's like not that we've already seen that kind of Superman's origin again, when bearing in mind that's 2010 and we've just got Jeff Johns' Secret Origin, and then before that we had Mark Waid's version with Birthright. It's like they're just not that exciting as premises.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Also, the whole like realism conversation, I think back then maybe wasn't as tiresome, but I think
in 2010 that's like right after like The Dark Knight. That's like
The Dark Knight, yeah, exactly.
That's like peak like realism, sort of in Hollywood, like the gritty reboot thing.
Yeah. But I'm saying like by 2021 when this came out, right? I think people like there was just so much change. Like, well, I guess like it's just kind of crazy to think about, but between the years of 2010 and 2021, you basically had like the rise of Marvel, right? Which like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which just kind of completely shifted the interests of of comic book fans. But I guess shifted because a lot more comic book fans were introduced. But I
Yeah.
do think that kind of like the expectations changed a lot. I do think that is very interesting, very interesting to think about. Like the fact that tonally there isn't that much difference between volume 1, 3, but like the landscape of comic books is had changed so much.
Yeah, or the Earth One initiative started in 2010, but Wonder Woman Earth One didn't come out until 2016, like the first volume.
Mm,
So that was already. I mean, that makes sense as to why Donald Trump is president in this story. In
yeah.
2021, Trump wasn't president, but if we're assuming this takes place less than a year after Volume One, then it would make sense that he is in this story.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that well, Bertie was talking about the art before, and I do think that art. It's like I think the art shines in the fact that everything's a bit more grand because it's like the big battle at the end. And as much as I genuinely in like comic books, manga, all of it, I think the actual battles aren't that cool. Whilst like those kind of grand moments of like I don't know emotional resonance, they hit a lot stronger. Like there's there's obviously that big scene where all the robots they launch into the sky and stuff, and that is really cool. And then they all land on the Amazonian island. But the for me, the bit or the scene, I guess, that hit me the most was the bit where Diana basically explains her whole plan of how they're gonna fight, but not really fight, obviously, against man's world. And she says, girls, just be merciful. And I was like, now that's really cool, you know? And obviously it's a visual medium and therefore, it's able to capture fights in a really cool way. But for me, I just think that I had a lot more, I just thought that was a lot cooler and I found that a lot more hype.
Yeah,
But I don't know
I
if
do.
you guys agree.
No, I agree with that. I think there's some really grand moments. I did want to say earlier, I sort of said some things about the art that I'm now flicking through. I'm actually going to go back on because especially some of the scenes where she's in the underworld, they look beautiful and they are still
The
paneled
Underworld was a
incredibly.
really strong part for me. I really liked the way it looked. I liked there was just a lot of
Yeah.
intrigue in the scale. Like those three big guys sat watching
Yeah.
Diana, I thought was really cool.
Are they meant to be like the gods, like the Greek gods, like Zeus and
I'm not
stuff?
sure. They were kind of just chilling. Like
No, I think they're okay. So there's three of them. One of them is just sort of like a naked, not naked. He's just like a guy wearing a toga. And then one of them looks like a Viking, and then the other one could maybe looks like they could be like an Egyptian god, because the one on the left says, Greek origins, but by the looks of it, one of mine then. So
Oh.
I think maybe these three are like the gods of the underworld from different mythologies, maybe.
Right, I'm seeing what you're saying, yeah. That's cool actually. So it's just like they're just making the entire pagan pantheon like official. Well, not all of them, but like all the big ones.
I suppose so.
That's cool. That's cool. I think it's a cool creative choice. They're also like drawn beautifully. Like I do, especially the
Yeah.
Viking guy. He's very imposing, and he's the one that's like, oh, we should hear her out because there's even a joke where one of them's like, you don't seem like a muscle man, with 12 labors. What are you doing here? And it's like, I guess I don't. I think it's dealing with this kind of classic story of the main character going into the world in a tongue-in-cheek way, which I think kind of makes it go down a bit easier with it being a bit of a cliche.
Yeah, and we've seen Hercules before in this story as an oppressor of the Amazons. I think it's interesting because in terms of the 12 labors, Superman does his own 12 labors in All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see a completely flipped version of Hercules in this story. Like, he's a straight-up villain, as he's referred to in this story.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say the Underworld reminded me of, they did a Future State Yara Flor comic, and I know they made a lot of mistakes with her character, but the way they did I think some of the Brazilian mythology in the Underworld, the story I read was just her traveling through the underworld and seeing some of that. But it was drawn beautifully.
Joel Jones is great.
Yeah, it looked really good, and it kind of just aesthetically reminded me of that a lot.
Yeah, explain who Yara Flor is for people that don't know.
Yeah, she was introduced a few years back as, I guess, the next person to take the Wonder Girl title, a Brazilian Wonder Woman inspired character. I know there was some controversy about, I think it was part of her story was set in the Amazon, and I'm not sure the full context behind that, but I think a character that there's still a lot of opportunity to correct that, and I think, I'd like to see more. I think, I don't know if Yara Flor's made any recent appearances in comics.
She was in, I haven't read a lot of this run, but I happened to read this issue. She popped up in Tom King's recent Wonder Woman run, which I'm not totally sold on that run, but there was an issue where her and Donna Troy and Cassie Sandsmark is the other Wonder Girl's name, but they appear as like the three Wonder Girls to kind of help out in that story, and it's cute that it was cute for them to hang out, and it's nice that Yara Flor's still relevant, but it's unfortunate when a character that was meant, introduced to be at the forefront of the future state sort of initiative is now relegated to one of many sidekicks that has existed. And that's not to diminish those characters, because I like, I like all the Wonder Girls. I mean, the Robins are some of my favorite characters in DC, but at the same time, it is a little bit of a shame, especially since the Wonder Woman secondary cast doesn't get the consistent treatment that, for example, the Robins do.
I guess back to Earth 1, there's this one character who I would love to be explained to me. What is her name? Like Amar Dor? She's this sort of like oracle character at the beginning, and she seems to be this lecturer in the school of the Amazons and the Amazon world. And then there's Mr. Manley, who's kind of like a B villain during this story, and he wants to like blow up the school or whatever, but then he doesn't because he's being silly. And yeah, it's meant to show how the worst parts of masculinity, I guess, with masculinity, is dying in this world, right? But I just don't really know. Is she like a famous DC character, or is she just kind of like sort of a MacGuffin character that's like spoken about and then revealed at the end?
I don't think she's a famous DC character, at least not that I know of. Yeah, I don't know about that. I thought maybe she was the legacy of the child character revealed at the end of the present timeline.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I thought that was a possibility. But I think she's just meant to be a sort of, I guess, political character of this future timeline, who, when we first see her in this cloak, we kind of assume is Wonder Woman, and then it turns out she's not, but then actually she was, because it was Wonder Woman in disguise. But I maybe also think her existing at the same time as Wonder Woman as separate roles made me sort of think I like the idea that in this future kind of timeline, this society that was sort of established by Wonder Woman, if Wonder Woman exists, she can't necessarily also be the political leader. That kind of feels wrong ethically. So I think it's good that there's another character who would be the political leader at the same time.
I have a question for you guys. How well do you think like Maxwell Lord stacks up as like a main villain for the end of the series, especially compared to like Dr. Zyko from last volume?
I mean, for me, I when there was like the first hint that Maxwell Lord was Ares, I don't know, I thought that was quite a cool idea, and then they made it very on the nose, and actually it turns out the villain was Ares, was sort of taken away from the Maxwell Lord character completely, and I think then it just seemed like a fight between like the god of death, who wasn't really a character with much mystery anymore. Like it might as well have been Thanos or something in that last fight. It was just a bit of a like, now they're fighting the evilest person. So
yeah,
I don't know. I wasn't in love with that. I think also Maxwell Lord was an interesting choice because he was. I mean, I think when Earth One first started out, they were trying to be different from New 52, and this version of Maxwell Lord is based on the reinterpretation from the New 52, where he was a bit more of this like evil kind of action movie villain, cool guy. I don't know. I just thought that was a bit odd, but
I don't particularly have any attachment to any version of Maxwell Lord, so I'm not. I know there's a lot of like controversy about that in comic book communities randomly, but I personally don't have any attachment, at least not at the moment. But I thought it was interesting his involvement as the main villain, because I think compared to Dr. Psycho is like the worst, sort of most manipulative guy on a very personal level, whereas Maxwell Lord in this story is sort of the true, I guess you could describe him as the true evil, in that he is the sort of designer and one of the people at the forefront of like white capitalist patriarchy. Like, he's sort of the, like, he would be the true villain of the Amazons, logically. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's kind of like maybe Dr. Zyko represents the worst parts of men in masculinity in a domestic environment, and then Maxwell Lord shows the worst in more of a public domain. Like one could interpret this story as saying that a war is the worst outcome, and the worst outcome of like masculinity and that sort of and patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big Cyclops lady in this story. What do you guys think about that?
I thought it was awesome. I thought all of like the Greek mythology coming together, like Bertie was saying, like in this sort of Avengers Endgame way. Even though these characters aren't fleshed out at all, I don't think that's as important because the designs are so cool. And I think it's pretty sick.
I like the big Cyclops lady.
I like the no, not the sirens, but I actually don't know what they're called. But I've seen them in like stories and stuff where it's like the ladies who have bird bodies but then like a lady head.
We see what's his name? It's either like Fernando or Ferdinand. He's the Minotaur guy.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
we see a flash of him in one panel, but he's a character in like mainline Wonder Woman. He's her chef in the Greg Rucka run.
Cold.
So, shout out to him.
A king.
I appreciated that we saw a glimpse of him.
Yeah, I think that this story does well as a big climax, and I do think that the ending of itself I like because it feels a bit more Morrison-y. You're like, oh, what the hell? Like, they just win. There's not like we reach a peace or whatever. It's just like Maxwell Lord, or Ares, I guess, tries to fight the Amazons, and then the Amazons just like beat patriarchy, and then there's literally this bit at the end which we can go back and forth on if this is useful or realistic or anything like that. Where it's like it's a bet, and she's asking like, who runs the world, and you're meant to finish it, and it's like girls now run the world, and they need to decide what to do now that they run the world. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. It's definitely cool, but like when you read a comic book, you don't just expect like everything to change in that sort of way. But I think they do well to do that, and I think it's more interesting than what I expected was going to happen.
All right. Can I read a couple panels from early on?
Please.
So it's after Wonder Woman has fought Artemis to get Artemis on her side, and then they kiss to sort of, I guess, seal the deal. They're talking about sort of fighting patriarchy, and Wonder Woman says, "Be merciful, that's all." And Artemis says, "Very well, our compromise. In the name of pity, then, we'll spare these good men one and all. We'll let them live their little lives. Just don't presume we'll spare their balls, Queen Diana." That's a pretty awesome page.
I really like Wonder Woman's line. I was like, what is that? Like, she's gonna take their balls. I was a bit confused. But yeah, I really like that line from Diana. I think it's really, really cool.
Which one?
The one where it's like, be merciful. I just think it's kind of badass. Yeah. Because it's clear that like they're way stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I also thought that at the end towards the end, later on when they're fighting the sort of Ares Sentinels, they when they find out it's like robots, that gives them sort of permission to just destroy them and not have to worry about being merciful. But I thought about maybe, obviously that's just like a mechanic that works well for a comic so that they can have a proper fight. But I thought that could maybe like represent how like the robots represent what man has created in the form of like violence and patriarchy and these weapons that man have created. So like we don't want to kill men, but we want to kill what they've made in patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And maybe it's even this idea that patriarchy almost dehumanizes guys, right? Like literally turns them into robots, like with the automatons that wash up on the beach rather than real men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall this volume is pretty good, and I think like a lot of the imagery is very interesting, especially the underworld stuff. Like I loved the way they did Cerberus, the whole idea that on one side Cerberus is this really cute puppy, and the other side he's this big scary monster. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I think that like with the way the Earthworm was going, they had to wrap it up in a fairly understandable way. They definitely do that. I think it's more interesting than I was expecting, and I think it does. I don't know. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think this feels introducing randomly the idea of parallel universes and alternate futures is like a very Grant Morrison way of ending things. I mean, using an alternate future as some kind of ending is something Grant Morrison has done like so many times. It's how they end their X-Men run. There's elements of that in their Batman run as well. So it's definitely a mechanic that they love to use to sort of do a final conclusion that explores all the themes that the story has already been exploring, but in a completely different way through this parallel future, sort of like what is the end point of everything I've already been exploring thematically. Do you reckon we're ready to do a final rating?
Yeah.
100%, 100%. Should we do a final rating of this volume, and then we'll do like all of Wonder Woman Earth 1?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay. I'm happy to go first. I would give this. Should we use? What should we use? Should we use? A MacGuffin can be Cerberus's. Yeah. I will give this.
You could do heads
go,
of Cerberus.
Heads of Cerberus. That was my idea. Yeah. I'd give this like out of 3. I'd give this 2 heads of Cerberus, like a big one and a small one.
Okay. Wait. How many heads of Cerberus out of 3? Is that the?
How many heads? I feel like whenever we do a rating system, one of us is like really confused by it. It's out of 3 that he has 3 heads.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go 1 head for this one.
Fair.
I don't know. Just for me, I think it unlike the other 2, for me this story felt like a story I didn't really care about with good bits, rather than maybe being generally a story that felt a bit more cohesive or made like I don't know. I think some people are gonna like this one. I think for me, I didn't love the story, but I liked the underworld. I liked a few ideas. I thought the art was great as usual. Yeah, and if I'm going overall story, I'm going 2 Cerberus heads, because I think if you bought this as a compact comic, you've got a great gallery of artwork, so I do think it's worth checking out. I think also I think the first 2 volumes, you get a decent story in the first one, and then a sort of follow-up on those themes and ideas in the second. I think the third, if you like big fight scenes, there's a story there, but I didn't think it was as strong overall.
Fair. Liam, what would you give this?
I agree that it's the weakest of the 3. I'm gonna give it still, I think, a 2 out of 3. But like you said, I'm going a big one, a big head and a small head. I think I was really excited by the first volume, and then the second one I still really enjoyed, and this third one I enjoyed. I don't have many. I don't know whether I have problems with it. I just think it resolved things in a way that, just apart from the underworld section, this just was not that exciting to me, this comic.
Yeah.
I think it could have done it a completely different way that was more exciting. I don't know what that way is, because I don't know, I'm not Grant Morrison. I'm not writing these kind of big stories, but I don't know. I just didn't feel as excited when I was reading it. There was a lot of elements of it I enjoyed, but it was definitely the least exciting of the 3. But overall, just because, especially how excited the first kind of half of Wonder Woman Earth 1 as a whole made me, I mean, it's difficult because out of three is like, so there's so little to choose from. But I mean, it would lean way more towards a 3 out of 3, because I really loved the way that this whole comic started.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
Everything it set up.
I think overall, for all of Wonder Woman Earth 1, I'd give it kind of close to the middle. I feel like it does yeah, it feels like we've compared it to a movie a lot, and I feel like a movie trilogy, and I feel like a lot of movie trilogies, it starts strong, it gets better, and then it kind of teeters off by the end. And I feel like many great stories are able to hold all 3, but even a lot of people's favorite movie trilogies have that very normal structure, right? And I think as such, it It's very solid. It's definitely worth reading if you enjoy Wonder Woman and you want to see, or if you're just interested in seeing, a very cool Wonder Woman origin. But I don't think I don't think they're reinventing the wheel with Wonder Woman Earth 1 at all.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like recommending it to people, I know they just did a compact comic, which is definitely worth the money because all the compact comics are like, it's like what, like £7 for like these 3 graphic novels all together as one book.
I think I got mine for 5, new, like pre-ordered. So
I mean that's incredible value. So I mean that's definitely worth a read, I would say. I mean, I know I liked these stories more than you guys did in general, but if aside from that, like if you were interested in this story, I would say just check out the first volume. If it incites you or interests you, keep reading, and if it doesn't, it's not going to grab you at any later point.
Yeah.
But if it interests you at all, I'd definitely recommend getting that compact comic, because especially the first sort of 2/3 is really worth the read.
Well, yeah, that was it. That was Wonder Woman, Earth 1. I think we all generally enjoyed it. At no point would I say we were disappointed, but I don't think that we were blown away consistently. But I think, generally speaking, we definitely were by the art. The art is like I think a definite standout.
Yeah, maybe even worth reading just to get a feel for the art, because it does feel like we used the word cinematic in the last one. Like, you have this kind of quite grand scale in the art. Like, if you're not into the story, you still get a good feel for the world, and also just the pages are really beautifully designed. We've talked about the layouts and stuff. I think it's worth having a look at.
I'm just looking at what else Yannick Paquette did, and apparently they did he did the 2015 run of Swamp Thing.
Awesome.
No, the 2012 run. I can't tell from a quick look on Google. And then like some issues of Batman Incorporated. So nothing quite on the scale of this. It seems like this is kind of Yannick Paquette's like biggest thing they've done. This is like, might seem random, but if people enjoyed the level of the art style and the use of paneling, I'd very much recommend anything by J.H. Williams III, who is J.H. Williams III is most famously the artist on Batwoman Elegy, which is another comic that's just incredible just for the art. But it similarly has like this incredible paneling where every page is just put together as its own like piece of art, and on top of that, his actual like drawing style is incredible as well. So that might seem kind of random, but if people like the art in this, they should definitely check out that as well.
Right. I hope you guys have a happy rest of your day.
Review us, but only say good things, though. If you say bad things, then we'll probably cry. No, I think we'll definitely cry if you say bad things. That's fine. If you want us to cry. You see, I got on with the emotional manipulation. Now they have to leave a good review.